I'm pretty sure we're in the right place.
I know Windows said to meet us in the middle of the woods out here. No idea where he is. Organ's funny.
Those are frogs. We actually know what these animals are. You better not litter.
Litter?
Yeah. With your coffee cup.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every day it's a new part of the woods that we're in.
Yeah. And Wendell's finally showed up.
Hey, Wendell, how's it going?
Banana.
You left us out here in the middle of the woods with all these damn frogs.
This is what I want to be doing right now. Playing SuperHot.
SuperHot?
Yeah, but, so much stuff going on. Give you guys a 2-second update. Our first office entered into a bidding war because the market is incredibly ridiculous here. So it looks like we're going to have a different office.
I think it's going to be... I think ultimately this one
Probably
would be better off. It doesn't have the same amazing view, but ultimately I think it's going to be a better...
Well, this one's better
space.
because it's shitty right now. So we get to go in there with sledgehammers and destroy the entire thing, rip up the ceiling, rip up the floor, and we have an allowance to do stuff. So
it's going to be great.
We'll find out Monday if we get that one or not.
Hit me up on Twitter if you want to come by with a sledgehammer. Mm-hmm. When we finally get in there, we'll coordinate it. We'll get you guys to sign a waiver that say if you hurt your foot that you we get to laugh at you.
Or if I hit you with a sledgehammer on accident because I've had too many beers.
Yeah, it is what it is. Regardless, it's going to be a lot of fun. We actually might document the deconstruction, reconstruction.
Yeah, I wasn't really going to do a vlog, but if we're tearing down things with sledgehammers, that's cool.
I'm all about it. We might have to get somebody to come in and actually hold the camera while we break things.
Yeah, put it on a tripod and let it time lapse while we just smash through things. And Pistol was like, I was mentioning this new place has got some walls that have got to come down. She's like, really? Can I hit things with sledgehammers? And I was like, yeah, maybe you can hit things with sledgehammers. So it could be a lot of fun. Anyway, Windows 10. We need to hit this with the sledgehammer. Windows 10 is now displaying advertisements on the lock screen. Kane, what is really egregious about this? Let's go straight to the heart first.
All right, so my first problem when I looked at this was like, wow, that's great, because normally when you lock your machine, you get whatever background that you've put in place, and you walk away, and that's it. People know that you're logged in, they know it's you. But when you start getting like targeted ads showing up on your lock screen, anybody walking by is going to be like, oh, this guy's been looking at such and such, or this guy is interested in such and such, or maybe this girl is... I could go down a list of really crazy things, but
it's going to be preparation H ads, and then people are going to know a lot about your personal life every damn time, and that's embarrassing.
I think
it's nothing to be embarrassed about.
I just think it's one of those. To me, it's a privacy thing, because it's just like when we sit here and we load up pages and whatnot, any kind of targeted ads that show up, or anybody who's taking a picture of their desktop, and everybody's like, we don't really care what you're looking at. We're more interested in why is there an ad for hentai porn on your browser page there, because we know that they're all Google ads and they're all targeted. I mean, I don't know. I think it's stupid. I don't like the way the Windows Store is trying to do this.
Yeah, there's a lot more to this, but that's like one of the main points I wanted to bring up here. Other than that is, like we said in our Windows video, that nothing's free. Especially if it's a corporation, it's not free. That's the bottom line. Everyone's like, oh, it's free. No. It was a free upgrade if you had their other stuff, but it's not ultimately free. The telemetry, and then this is the first thing that we're seeing. I think that what they're going to be doing is they're going to be driving as many people as possible to their Windows Store platform, and they're also, it looks like they're going to be start launching a little bit of a game initiative. They said they're going to have some some interconnectivity between Xbox, possibly even I don't know, maybe down the road be able to play Xbox games on a PC, because it's the same freaking hardware essentially.
Well, it's the same. It's all
Pretty
DirectX.
much.
It's all DirectX based stuff. I mean, in all reality, you should be able to plug in a controller into your Windows machine, load up an Xbox game, and play it, because it is the exact same. It's the exact same DirectX underbelly. So I don't know why there's always a problem.
Different special hardware. It's very tailored to that special hardware.
Yeah, tailored to special hardware. That's not as great as the stuff I put in my computer. I mean, I don't.
So one of the things that's really interesting about this is if you remember games for Windows Live, right? Well, Games for Windows Live it would be an upgrade compared to the experience that you will have if you buy a game through the Windows Store. First off, it's going to be locked to a certain FPS. It also is going to be, it's going to force full screen, but not full screen windowed. So it forces full screen windowed, and it won't give you an option to do otherwise because it wants to make sure that while you're in the game, all your desktop stuff will still work. And if there's going to be a notification or an advertisement that they want to throw up there, that will also come up. So it's going to be a very shitty experience as far as gaming goes. So do not buy a game on there. And I'm also wondering if they're going to start trying to do like they did with some of the Games for Windows Live things where they tried to make some games exclusive to that. Are they going to force... All right, well, listen, you can have a Steam key, but you're also going to have to open up a Windows Store and have that running at the same time as well.
I mean, it's not like it's going to be all Windows games. I mean, this is really, it's just anything like, Halo might show up in the Windows Store.
Well, this one's the first one that they're advertising rights for the Tomb Raider or whatever. It's supposed to be a pretty good game.
There was another one that was being thrown around a couple weeks back where I guess it was supposed to be like an Xbox exclusive, and then everybody was throwing a fit because Microsoft was like, oh, we're going to put it on Windows as well. And people were like, but it's an Xbox exclusive. Well, not anymore.
Well, you guys can follow the tips that we put forth in the video, and it will disable all this junk. I mean, this is the basic way to do it. You can go into your whatever your options and just turn off get fun facts, tips, tricks, and more on your lock screen. You want to.
That's a really interesting
I got
way
a tip
of saying
and I got a tip and a trick for you. How about an advertisement on your screen? Wendell, what do you make of this? Anything else we've missed here?
Yeah, the only other thing that I'll say is that Microsoft has screwed up the user experience so bad on this historically, and they still are, that I just don't think that their user experience team, somebody at Microsoft, has definitely got their head up their ass. And I'm sorry to put it so bluntly, but clearly the people that are designing this stuff are not actually the people that are using it on a day-to-day basis. And it's some pointy-haired middle manager that has no idea what they're doing. And they're like, I imagine that the user would actually want this. This is actually a thing. And I'll give you a perfect example. If you have an Xbox and you want to watch Netflix, not only is that a thing that you subscribe to, at least historically, for the Xbox Live Online thing, if you have the Games for Windows thing and you sign in to do the Xbox stuff on your Windows machine, it's like, oh, but you're already signed into your Xbox. And it's like, yeah, but the Xbox is just watching Netflix. That doesn't have anything to do with anything. Why would you lock me out of the Netflix? Why would you lock me out of what I'm trying to do if the Xbox is playing Netflix? It's completely ridiculous and stupid. It's like, Xbox Live. Oh, you're Xbox Live Netflixing? Oh, you can't log in on Windows. No, that's not going to happen. So clearly, Microsoft is not eating their own dog food. The other really horrible thing that is Microsoft, I think, wants to bring Xbox Live to the PC, which with Steam hopefully will never happen because Xbox Live is like the dumbest thing ever. But anybody that has been gaming on PC knows that. But
it allows you to have a seamless gaming experience and chatting with your friends.
You can't do that. You can't do that on PC.
Yeah, you can't do that on PC. It's impossible. Yeah. I mean, at least not seamless. You have to have like this app and that app. It reminds me of one of those infomercials where the person is like, "Are you sick and tired of having to open up like 5 apps?" And the guy's like smashing his mouse and
he falls on the floor and explodes.
Falls over, and it's just a bunch of Get the Xbox Live experience. You know, if we find that ad, that ad's going to happen, and they should pay me royalties or something. Ultimately, I'm just going to come right out and say this. I think it's getting to the point where we really need to encourage something to happen with Vulkan. And,
wait a minute, you're onto something.
And get away from Microsoft so we can actually come out and say, stop buying Microsoft products.
You know what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen? If Microsoft really messes this up, and I also forgot to mention that if you're using this, SLI and Crossfire may not work. Possibility, they may not work. So they're really just screwing over the hardcore gamers. VSync is going to be locked on, which is typically going to lock you to either the refresh rate of your monitor, which for most people is around 60, so that's going to hurt your FPS overall and give you some stutter. But the thing here that you just mentioned, guess who this is going to piss off? Gabe Newell. He's going to get mad. He's already mad. But I kind of, right now, Microsoft, you're doing the right thing. Keep doing it. Keep doing this shit. Keep doing it, please.
Now we just need that push.
Let's reshoot this entire thing and just encourage the hell out of Microsoft so they keep doing this stupidity. Just keep doing it. It's going to be great. We're totally on board. I can't wait to game on through the Windows Store. It's a great idea. And then Gabe Newell's going to get mad, and he's going to be like, you know what? Let's just get every bit of resource that we have left and throw it all into Vulkan and Linux and get our own OS, off the ground, and really get some support for Ubuntu and Debian-based Linux distros, and just make sure that all the drivers are up to date. Let's get a couple guys over at Valve and a couple guys, from Valve over at AMD, and a couple guys over at NVIDIA, making sure that their drivers work with our OS and with Debian-based distros. And let's just make this happen because we're sick and tired of the experience.
I've just confirmed that the number of Linux games on Steam is 1,648.
1,648. That's probably like 20-30% of them, right? I mean, not even that. But
I'm not sure what that is in terms of the overall percentage, but that graph is looking pretty good in terms of like starting from a little before May of 2013 through January of 2016. It's a pretty steady growth.
Right, and our game is for sure going to be available. I'm going to bring up a screenshot of the game here so you guys can see our game that we're working on right now. What do we got here? I've already showed this on Twitter, so I'll show this this thing.
SuperHot's available for Linux.
SuperHot is awesome. Let's go forward here. There we go. Yes, this thing. There we go. That's one of the bad guys from the game. He might be a good guy. You never know. He looks like a bad guy.
It is one of the indigenous creatures of our wonderful little world.
So, yeah, well, more on our game as it develops, but we already have a version of it up and running on Linux.
Yeah.
It looks 3D, but it is you move it on a 2D plane.
Yeah.
2D-ish.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
So
it's going to be fun. This guy.
This is not the playable character. This is just one of the bad guys that someone modeled for us. We've got some awesome people modeling, and this will also be a good time to pitch. Right now, we're trying to get ready to put together a Kickstarter for the game. And if you guys have any modeling experience and want to help us out, and you could donate some of your time, drop us a note, especially if you do it on the forum. And we've got a head developer. The thing that's going to happen is that if we have a successful Kickstarter, the people who are, helping out the most and providing us with some actual usable content for the game, we'll put them on payroll. And I've already got a few people on here that I'm sure I want to put on payroll, already. Some awesome stuff in here. Some really cool weapons as well. Yeah, I'll show you guys one weapon because it's kind of exciting, why not? Got a lot of cool stuff. We've also got the Zweihander designed already, but this is just a small little assassin's blade. And these are going to be somewhat low polygon, so the game should run nice and fast. Anyway, just a little update on the game there. Let's move on and talk about what's next. Wendell, I don't think I sent you this one, but we'll make a quick mention of this because it's funny.
Speaking of video
games.
And violent video games with swords, and oh my gosh.
So Senator Leland Yee, he is one of the senators who was very vocally against violence in video games, and
he accepted a bribe, I believe it was, in trying to smuggle weapons from some fancy country into the United States. And of course, the actual setup was done by was it the FBI?
Yeah, I believe it was the FBI. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if it was the FBI or what it was. That's the SRB. I just read. Oh yeah, it is the FBI. Okay. Yeah. Far Wider Investigation, San Francisco based. Oh yeah, the Chi Kung Tong Group. That's gonna be fun to say. Okay. So yeah, this is kind of interesting because this guy is very big on being against violent video games and it's a terrible thing. But then he was involved in a FBI sting and investigation into the Chi Kung Tong Group, which is kind of like a mafia.
It sounds Cantonese.
Yeah, well, it's a mafia type thing that's happening in San Francisco. So they were investigating these guys. Turns out that in the midst of this investigation, an undercover agent actually offered this guy a deal that allowed him to benefit from bringing a bunch of weapons into the United States, and he accepted.
So let me get this straight up. Violence in video games, really bad. Violence in real life? Well, as long as I'm making some money on it, we'll let it slide. No problem.
I mean, I guess the real deal here is weapons are not the problem. It's the kids who are playing violent video games are going to grow up to want real weapons. That's the problem. So if we make the weapons available, we know who's been playing violent video games because they're the ones that are going to be really good at shooting people. I have no idea where I'm going with this. It's just I don't understand.
It's the same type of thing when someone comes out and they're like, we think that gay people should be beat with rocks and they're bad. And then, 2 months later, it's like that same senator was caught in an airport bathroom having gay sex. And it's like, well, of course he was gay. It just always works that way.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with being gay.
I just find that there's something really wrong with screaming and trying to make public policy about how terrible and bad it is while you yourself are
always happens that way. That's always
I don't know that. Back to the fact, guy was smuggling or trying to smuggle weapons in the United States, and we're not talking like a BB gun. We're talking some massive, fully automatic assault weapons.
All right, so let's have a little bit of fun here, shall we? Drone Racing League. This is really cool. So the guys put on, some VR glasses. They sit down, and right now they're in a stadium. But I want to ask you guys if you think that this could be like a legit sport that we start seeing on TV. The video here has 161,000 hits. They've got the whole thing. They've got the crazy camera work.
It only came out, what was that, 4 days ago from this recording? I mean, I don't know. I sat down and watched this, and it made me click on the next video and the next video. I mean, it's definitely got that very much... it feels like a reality show, the way that
they put it together.
The way they put it together, but it's got kind of a... It's got more of kind of like a NASCAR kind of feel to it, I guess. It's a bunch of these.
It's so much cooler than NASCAR and the colors and everything.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, you look at NASCAR as racing, and Formula One racing or Le Mans or any of those kind of cool things. This was just kind of neat. It's a bunch of little racing drones, and what's really cool about this is the guys who are flying these, they're from all over the place, and they're from all walks of life. I mean, you've got you got a guy from Australia, you got a guy from upstate New York, you got a guy from California. I mean, there are people from all over the place. And there was 12 pilots that going through this, and it just wielded it down to 4 pilots. It was pretty awesome. I don't know.
So we got together, Wendell, and build some racing drones. You want to try doing this? I mean, I think I would be pretty bad at it, but what do you think, Wendell? You want to try to build some of these?
I think it'd be a lot of fun. I sort of want to know what kind of radio technology they're using to maintain a good connection through a concrete stadium. Like they had it not just flying around the stadium, but also flying around like the inner corridors and like up the spiral walkie thing and some other stuff like that.
And it has to be like...
Seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has to be completely accurate to the millisecond because they're flying through some really intense obstacle. I mean, it's basically an obstacle course at some points. They have to fly through certain rings, and they have to... There's a lot of finesse involved with this, so that is a really good point. I wonder what they're using.
The first time I watched one of these drones just, bite it, I was like, what? Because I don't know. This was actually kind of... I was literally on the edge of my seat watching this, going, this is intense. And the fact that they switch between kind of like this view where it's the standard classic stadium view, and then they actually have... You can flip to each one of the drone pilots.
Yeah, they've got a little
POV.
Yeah, like that.
And in the right here, you can see where it says click watch pilots FPV feeds, which you can actually watch their first person perspective, and you can look at any one of them through the entire race, which is pretty awesome.
The technology, maybe we should contact them and see if they could talk to us about the technology they've used in this. I'm pretty sure it's just Bluetooth 2.1. It's probably.
I don't know. I was thinking it was going to be like, just random garage door opener radio frequency stuff.
Just standard old.
It's NFC. They're using NFC. That's what they're
125 megahertz, kilohertz, what is it?
I don't know. 125 kilohertz. Yeah,
125 kilohertz.
Yeah, standard, RFID stuff. Yeah, that's what they're using. No. The stuff actually it's pretty crazy. If you dig into the area, it bit it.
Yeah, he bit it.
It's like, oh.
So yeah.
Oh no, that was the end of the race.
You guys interested in this kind of stuff? Would you like to see this on as like a regular sport, drone racing? Do you think this will be a regular sport?
I think it's going that way. I mean, they're already pitching at this. It's already got this full level of stuff. Like I said, it's 161,000 views in 4 days, and I don't know what the kind of publicity this thing has got.
I mean, we're going to have to do something as far as regular sports go that involves wearing VR glasses because, in the next 15 years, no one's going to be in the real world anymore. We're just going to have VR glasses on and we're going to sit around.
I know. We're all going to be like frail sectoids with giant eyeballs and full frown.
But our avatars, that'll be us.
Yes. We'll be, I don't know, tentacle Cthulhu beasts.
It'll be Third Life.
Yeah.
Cthulhu beast.
Why not? Who doesn't want to be Cthulhu, man?
I'm just going to be one of those guys who runs around wearing leather straps that are like 5 polygons, and it's just like, why are you doing this?
So you're going to look like a Minecraft character, and
yeah.
Got it.
Anyway.
I'd say the military will probably recruit these guys to start flying around a new generation of military drones, too.
You had to go there, man. You ruined...
What are they calling them now? Companions? Not unmanned companions or some nonsense like that? I don't know. We'll figure that out in a minute. So we got a bunch of new stuff on Epic Pants. Got these shirts in that I'm scared of because they have my face on them, but, you know, whatever. Actually, they don't. They've got everyone else's face on them. The wash shirts are actually doing really well. I buy Apple shirts are almost sold out. Some of the sizes have already sold out of I buy Apple. Stop buying Apple and almost sold out.
We should actually make a shirt that says I buy Apple and it's just a big bullseye on the back or something.
That's awful. Poor people that buy Apple. They don't know any better, do they? We need to educate them. So yeah, and then the shirt of the month. This is the last chance to get the shirt of the month, which is the evolution of the facepalm. There it is. I quite enjoy that shirt. Chris's artwork is cool. So yeah, that's it for Epic Pants. Go over there and get everything. It's freaking cool. Oh, Land Syndicate tickets. We're up to 200 right now. It's gonna be a pretty epic show. Tournaments, all kinds of fun stuff. No sponsors right now, so I'm kind of like giving up on the sponsors. We're just gonna lose money and have a ton of fun without them. We don't need them. We thought it'd be cool to say like, hey, if you guys want to come do a thing, you can. But if not, we don't give a shit. It'd be awesome anyway. Oh yeah, this is a good article. Wendell. Remember we talked Tor. We were talking about Tor and Carnegie Mellon University. They were in a bit of hot water for it, and yeah, it's been confirmed.
It turns out we were right and wrong. It wasn't the FBI who paid them; it was the Department of Defense. But
they were still working for the government.
But yeah, but the FBI is the one that requested all of the information from them.
The FBI subpoenaed records from the university as a result of the research in order to get intelligence for some cases the FBI was working. So it's sort of one of those, it's another one of those public-private partnerships where the government can't directly do something, but they can totally pay somebody else to do it, and then it's okay.
So this was a DoD grant that was fed into Carnegie Mellon to do this research. I wonder if they said, hey, can you guys do this for us? Here's a big grant for it. And they're like, sure, we can do that.
Yeah, and then after they're done, they're like...
Because that's where the real question is who came up with the idea to do this?
Well, in Carnegie Mellon's defense, it sounds like there may be a possibility that Carnegie Mellon was like, you know what? We did this information and we don't want to just like give it to you guys because you guys are going to use it for something awful or whatever. And then the subpoena was issued. I mean, why would they need to issue a subpoena otherwise?
Because they that's where I think it's one of those things where
maybe they had it set up that way from the beginning.
Well, yeah, I think this is my take, and what I think happened is the DoD or the FBI is like, we want to bust these guys, so they go through the channel, they make a few phone calls. DoD goes to CMU and says, hey, here's a grant for this kind of project, and you guys do it. And they said okay, so they set out to do it with that grant money, and then when the time was right, the FBI subpoenas the records. So the FBI is not directly involved in this.
Right.
It looks like a regular run-of-the-mill. And this is what we talked about when this came out initially. I think Wendell hit the nail on the head on this one, where he was like, yep, this is just one of those, this guy over here said something to that guy, this guy over here said something to this guy, and then the FBI comes in from over here, and nobody looks like they're all directly involved in this one, and they're all kind of indirectly involved, and they make it to look that way.
One other interesting part of this that doesn't have much to do with Carnegie Mellon directly was that the judge in this case came out and said that, hey, you're using the Tor network, and the Tor network has some vulnerabilities. There's someone somewhere who probably knows your IP address. So even though you're trying to remain private and you're taking steps to ensure your privacy, you should have no expectation of privacy.
The analogy they used was with a paper shredder. So, you go back 25 years, they had a paper shredder that would just cut everything in a straight line. Well, if you happen to be the guy to go and pull that garbage out of the dumpster
tape it together,
meticulously sit down and lay them all out together, I mean, that's well within the police investigative rights to do so, because once it's sent to garbage, they go and take care of that. If they didn't up their game and to put all those pieces back together, the shredding relative privacy. When you suddenly get to the crosscuts, where suddenly you're shredding it vertically and horizontally in various points, well, same process applies. It's just going to take them longer to put the pieces back together. And then again, they still have all the incriminating evidence. Same thing with this. You've done all this stuff to mask your public IP address that you're using from your own home. And if they have found a way to circumvent that shredding, so to speak, then joke's on you.
So the other reason I always say that Tor is unsafe is, yes, it does add layers and you can do other things to help ensure safety, but they watch Tor because they know it's where stuff happens. So they know the people who use Tor are typically doing it for X, Y, and Z, things that they would like to look at. So I just say, guys, as a safety precaution, just don't use Tor. That's me.
You're saying don't use it, and I say everybody should be using it.
Like
and I mean everybody. Not any one person should not. But even then, you're still dealing with if everyone's using it, it means that everyone's going to... All that is done is that means everybody's shredding their paper. And that just means it's going to make
a huge pile of paper.
A huge pile of paper. It just means it's going to make it a little bit more difficult for them to pinpoint you versus you versus you, but they're still going to do it.
I would agree with you if Tor wasn't so damn slow.
Well, it's not even so much that it's slow. It's that you're here, you're connecting to here, and here just to go here. Where instead of having a 3 millisecond hop, now you've got an 80 millisecond hop, and it's no different than going from here to to New York on a data speed level, or latency level.
I don't know. And then you're limited by whatever connection you're coming out of if it's slower than yours.
True.
So, anyway, I guess realistically, they like to say that as soon as something leaves your house, essentially on the internet, you have no expectation of privacy.
That's
pretty much what they've said. I mean, just
which
no matter what you're doing,
as
soon as it leaves your house, no expectation of privacy.
Wendell, what do you think on this?
I think that the Tor, if used carefully and judiciously, it can be a useful tool. It can serve a very, very valid purpose. But I think the danger of Tor is that it is sort of when it's used by the uninitiated. Unless everybody uses it, and then it doesn't matter as much. It's certainly more useful that way. But I think that it's one of those things where you have to be careful what your expectations are. And I don't know. I mean, it does seem kind of like he's turning the situation on its head. It's like if somebody who's using Tor has no expectation of privacy, but at the same time, we do need some kind of anonymous Dropbox or anonymous way to blow the whistle or anonymous way to submit a document. I think because of certain things that we need in society when people are in a situation that they need to blow the whistle on something without necessarily having to endure the negative side effects of that. And technology is increasingly making it harder and harder to do that, while at the same time sort of promising that that's what it provides, but it doesn't necessarily provide that. And I think that expecting somebody inside an organization to be able to use those tools to effectively blow the whistle and not get themselves in trouble, not because something is illegal or wrong or whatever, just as a result of using the tool. So it's kind of convoluted. It's really hard to, I mean, honestly, it could be its own video. It could be a totally standalone thing.
All right, let's talk about Bitcoin, shall we? Bitcoin right now in Japan, they're talking about, this is a weird headline because it's not just Bitcoin. They're talking about making multiple alternate currencies valid as legal currency. And the definition that they're looking for, this is Dogecoin, Bitcoin, Litecoin, whatever. But the idea that they have to put this into legislation and that sort of thing. But what they're proposing is that they want to create a new definition that says anything that can be exchanged for goods and services or legal tender as a currency. That means that it's legal tender as a currency. So that seems really broad. I want to do a little bit more research into this because, I mean, by that, I could start up the paper money society and have a group of people who run around just taking pieces of notebook paper and trading that for stuff. And as long as it's traded, it's legal tender now?
Only if it is publicly and accepted. So if everybody says Bitcoin's accepted, so if you were to do that, and you were able to go and take over an entire town or a small segmented population of society and says, yes, we all agree that this random piece of paper signed by Logan is currency, then technically, yeah, as long as it was finite and it had your signature on it. And
Didn't they do this at one point in Russia, and then the soldiers and stuff would run around with a gun in their hand and a piece of paper in the other hand that said like $5,000 or whatever, or rubles or whatever, and they would hand it to them and be like, "There you go, there's your money," and they'd be like, "Okay, there's your stuff that you just bought, your new motorcycle or whatever the hell." Didn't that happen? Anybody in the comments? No, I feel like I've heard about that at one point. Someone Google that.
Scary.
So yeah. Anyway, Bitcoin being if that is adopted, and the cryptocurrencies are legal, and not just a commodity or not just a sort of something like a stock that you can trade and sell and pay dividends on. I wonder what that's going to do for their economy, number one, and it's also going to make it so that it's easier to tax Bitcoin. But I wonder what that's going to do as far as the rest of the world. And you got any ideas, Wendell?
I think that a cryptocurrency, if not Bitcoin, is inevitable. Like, we are inevitably going to have some type of currency like this to replace both cash and credit cards. It's just mechanically, it's just so much better than chip and pin, than the credit card system that we use in America, although very soon that'll be chip and pin. So invariably, we're going to get there. I don't think we're going to get there with Bitcoin. I think that Bitcoin is very much a 1.0. I don't know if Bitcoin is going to evolve into what we actually end up using, or if something else will be created that, is a Bitcoin type, but is officially sanctioned or government sanctioned or whatever. But the transparency and accounting will be transformative for society when that happens. And I hope whatever actually happens with this type of thing, we keep the transparency and accounting, because, oh my gosh, Wall Street and banking and reserve currency and the Federal Reserve and those types of things with transparent ledgers, that would be transformative. And that's what I would really like to see more than anything.
We've got a lot of different financial institutions like JP Morgan, Chase. They're working on their own cryptocurrency, and I think they're even using blockchain. It's like very similar. Be really careful with any sort of Bitcoin, related activity, because they'll come after you. They will. They want to make sure that their cryptocurrency is the only cryptocurrency.
Yeah, well, when I introduce the Cane currency and the Cane coin, we're going to be it's going to be just a big thing with a Q on it. It's going to be awesome.
Can we get a red one that's called the Candy Cane?
I hate you. No, we're going to get companion coins to go along with them. We're going to call them the Cocaines.
Cocaines? Oh God! Would you guys pay with cocaine?
I can't.
Know. You can't. You can already pay with cocaine in Miami.
Can we please move on now?
All right.
Why? You can't keep us contained?
All right, if this goes on, someone's going to get a caning. In the streets. All right, let's talk about Apple. I don't know why. I don't even want to talk about this Apple and FBI thing. We can mention it quick.
If you didn't see our video on the Apple and FBI thing, you should totally go check it out. But here's the doomsday scenario, and I forgot to mention it during the video, and I'm really sorry. So let's say you should go watch the Apple video first, because it's not going to make any sense if you haven't seen it. Basically, the Apple is refusing the FBI's order. There's a phone that's encrypted, and Apple maybe would be able to decrypt it if they wrote new software and loaded it onto the phone in order to decrypt it. But as it exists right now, there's not really a clean way to decrypt the phone. So the FBI wants Apple to write software that doesn't exist right now today in order to decrypt the phone. All right, cool. Apple's refusing. They're not going to do that. What stops the FBI from being able to write their own software to decrypt the phone? That's Apple's private certificate signing key. The binary programs, we touched on this a little bit in the video, but Apple cryptographically signs executable programs. Let's assume for the sake of this argument that cannot be defeated. It's probably not true, but let's assume. And that means that only programs that have been digitally signed using Apple's private key will execute on the iPhone. So, absent Apple's cooperation in doing that, we know that the NSA, for example, those private keys are the kinds of things that the NSA and other intelligence agencies in other countries have been after. what is to stop the FBI from demanding that Apple turn over their private key so that the FBI could then write their own software? This is exactly what happened to LavaBit, which was Edward Snowden's email provider, where they had a master private key that everybody's email was encrypted with, and they were like, well, we can't, there's no mechanism for us to give you the encrypted contents of Snowden's email. We would have to give you, access to everybody's email. And the FBI said, fine, that sounds good, let's do that. And that did not end well for LavaBit. And so I think the next move for the FBI here is for them to demand Apple's private key, which is very completely and very transparently the end game that Tim Cook was really fearing, which is, oh my gosh, anybody can do anything with Apple, whatever, because private key.
Well, I guess that'll bring us right to their next response here. Apple's long-awaited legal response to the FBI. So
long-awaited. What did we wait? Like 4 days?
Yeah, I know. Really, it's been maybe a little bit longer than that. But their legal response,
65 pages. I read it. Yeah. It's amazing.
And it's, you know what? Apple they're completely in the right here, and they're doing the whole righteous thing, and they're going to win a lot of customers by doing this. And that's just the way it is. But do not forget that they are doing this for PR purposes. If it was in their best interests monetarily to cooperate with the FBI, they would do that. They're doing the right thing. Leave it at that.
I am glad that Apple is doing the right thing, but I don't believe that they would be doing the right thing if their pocketbook was also not severely affected. Like, they're an 800-pound gorilla, and I'm really glad that the argument here lines up with this particular 800-pound gorilla's pocketbook. Because if it didn't, I don't think they would be doing as much as they are. But what they are doing, I'm really glad of. I think that ultimately, with the current political climate in the U.S., it will have been all for naught. But I think if Apple succeeds here, there's going to be tremendous growth in the international market. I don't think the American market's going to be affected. And if that bears out, then certainly that was at least a consideration in the actions that they're taking here. Clearly.
You know, be kind of a funny thing to do is go put on some like really inspirational music. Like the music that's in the background when the president in Independence Day is giving the speech about like we will not go whatever into the night. Put that on in the background and then read some of the stuff that Tim Cook is saying, and then go ahead and read just some of the snippets here from the actual legal response. Like, this is not a case about one isolated iPhone. Rather, this case is about the Department of Justice and the FBI seeking, through the courts, a dangerous power that Congress and the American people have withheld, the ability to force companies like Apple to undermine the basic security and privacy interests of hundreds of millions of individuals around the globe. Need the music. Maybe I'll put some music in the background while we're doing this. But yeah.
It literally, the 65-page document really is, like, you read some of the descriptions of, like, the old, Muhammad Ali boxing matches, or, I don't know, a more modern reference is like, the Hulk turned loose in maybe one of the modern Avengers movies. I don't know. But the lawyer that wrote this is totally just steamrolling through everything. It's amazing. It's just the most wonderful prose ever. And I really, there's some typos and some weird stuff that's probably been corrected because I read the version that was, as soon as it was out. It was 65 pages. It was, the read goes very quick, even though it's 65 pages, but holy crap, that lawyer just absolutely eviscerated them. I mean, if it had been a medieval army, he would have single-handedly taken down the entire castle, been covered with blood, and, just like baring his fangs and just like, bring it on, come on, bring it on. I mean, it was just, I don't know how to describe the prose in a way that would really make sense for how amazing it really is.
He's Lancelot in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And he's storming the wedding feast. Ha ha! And the FBI is like just sitting there eating a pear, like, oh shit, I'm slain.
At one point, he literally says that the FBI is lying through its teeth in their response, which is that they're not really concerned with setting a precedent. They just want to unlock this one phone. And he's like, well, okay, you say that, but your words are pretty hollow because ABCXYZ, this sets a precedent. This is a legal motion. Well, how can you possibly think that? Oh, by the way, here's a quote where you said, oh yeah, I guess technically this would set a precedent. So you're this is not genuine at all. This is an expansion of power, under the guise of fear of terrorism. And I really hope this does. I really hope that Apple is able to maintain their position here. I really do, and I really hope that Apple sincerely puts forth a lot of effort. And I'll say that, maybe I'm wrong about their motives, but I think that their motives are at least as much about their pocketbook as it is about, constitutional rights and that kind of thing, if not the constitutional aspect of it just being a tiny part of their reasoning. That said, for where they are, I'm glad they are where they are, but why they are where they are, I'm not sure about.
Well,
And
Microsoft's taking Apple's side officially, and
Finally. We already have Google and Facebook on their side.
Yep. And Bill Gates has come out, and he's never actually taken a side on all this. He still kind of has a very neutral standing
Well,
point.
actually, I read an article, I believe it was today, maybe written yesterday, but Bill Gates has said that it is extremely misfortunate that everyone is saying that he is not on Apple's side, because he is. So
Yeah.
he's come out and said, no, this is extremely unfortunate that the journalists and the media is saying that I am saying these things and I am on this side because I'm not.
Yeah, when I've listened to the interviews that he's done, I haven't said that in an article, but when I've listened to the interviews, he seems very neutral and objective, which that's Bill
He's
Gates.
retired,
Well, no, that's just
Bill
anytime you
Gates.
ever see him speak about anything, he's very objective and neutral. It's like he doesn't actually have an opinion. He is
like
just
a politician or something.
not even quite. I think politicians have a little more of they sway and they try to throw some emotion to it. He's more like a machine when he's talking to people. But no, but the other thing that I saw today is that the FBI actually did come out and say, yeah, we screwed up. We changed the password. Our bad.
Oh,
That actually came out today.
that's kind of interesting, too.
So,
All right, you guys want to move on and talk about Google just a little bit? We're going to talk about Google Fiber.
because I like Google Fiber.
Now, Google Fiber is expanding, and now they've announced they're probably going to be coming to San Francisco. And this is an interesting development because most of Google Fiber's development has been. This is an interesting development because of development. It's an interesting development because they've mostly been targeting developments that have not been developed yet, and they've been doing their own development. And looking for low-cost developments so that they can run wires run fiber to the low-cost developments and get them all developed.
Somebody make that a meme, because that's one of those sentences that is so ridiculous but grammatically correct.
Development. That's what Google's doing right now. So here's what's interesting about
Bulber
this.
sachet there.
Yeah, exactly. My eye's about to come out of my head. So Google right now, they're going to San Francisco, and they're not going to be installing their own fiber in the ground. They're going to be using pre-existing fiber in most areas. They may do some installations. They're looking mostly for buildings and apartments and low-cost housing and that sort of thing. They're going to be just buying up different fiber. They've only done this in a couple different markets, and those were for special circumstances like Provo, Utah, and I believe they did some in North Carolina. But by and large, they've been doing it all themselves. Now that they're looking to start buying the dark fiber that's in the ground, or even start renting fiber from some other providers and then using it for their service, that could get really, really dangerous for the incumbents like Comcast and Time Warner. And Comcast is, of course, shaking in their freaking boots right now because they're charging, if you want gigabit from Comcast on a business level, it's going to cost you a couple grand, maybe anywhere from $800 to a couple grand. They just make up a number when you call them. They just make up a number. And then for gigabit to the home, it's a few $100s. It's not as terrible, but they're often offering 2 gigabit in some markets as a competitive measure. I'm just not sure if they're going to have data bandwidth caps or anything like that.
Their delivery for 2 gigs, they're like, wait a minute, they're serving up 1 gig? Let's give people 2. People like bigger numbers. It's like I don't know. It's
they're probably running 40 gigs to a neighborhood that has 1,000 people.
Well, what's interesting when it comes to fiber optic lines is this is what's kind of interesting, and this is interesting because it's happening here in Portland as well. Is you've got companies that are just, like you said, leasing the fiber itself, because the fiber doesn't have anything on it. It's just a strand of glass from one end to the other, and you can hook up whatever you want on both ends. So there's companies like G-Wave and FiberSphere who are doing the same exact context that Google's trying to do here, and they're finding housing developments or apartment buildings. They're running, they're getting the building owners to run Cat6 through every single apartment, and then they just run fiber to the building. And then once they have that, they plug in some really high bandwidth connector at the one end of the fiber. They connect it back to their data center somewhere, and suddenly you've got a 2 millisecond ping into the internet. It's like mind blowing. And this is the thing to do for any of these companies. And I have it on good authority that one of the companies here in town was actually leasing a competitor's fiber.
You just say they leased
Comcast.
They leased Comcast fiber for a couple of the buildings because they were like, this building has 100 tenants.
And
we can lease Comcast fiber, put one of our fancy switches in the basement, and then maybe one on the 5th floor, and just run copper to every single door. And the next thing you know,
90% of the tenants were switching to this company. It's just like,
I don't know what Comcast thought was going to happen when they rented this, small number. And the funny part is Comcast was charging, a couple grand for the for gigabit if you wanted it, and if it wasn't even on the list, you had to call the enterprise grade. The business class could not even offer it.
No,
but they had it because there's fiber there that you could get it. But anyway, this company they set up they're leasing Comcast fiber and they're offering gigabit business class $60.
Yeah. And it was
Comcast.
It got to a point where Comcast actually sent a letter out that said, "We're never doing business with these company again. They're stealing all of our they're stealing all of our business." I'm like, good for you.
So yeah, now they're going to be really worried about Google doing that. I'm sure they're not going to be renting to Google. That's just unless Google pays an exorbitant amount of money, but Google I think is mostly looking to break even. Because everyone who's on the internet is going to be making them more money just by the default of Google being pretty much the internet these days. It's kind of scary.
I mean, they ultimately, like I said, you've got these giant bundles of fiber in the ground, and they're using maybe 50 strands out of maybe 200, and it's just they call it dark fiber for a reason because it's not lit up, it's not doing anything, and because it's not doing anything, you can connect whatever you want to either end and make it work. Like if there was a chunk of fiber running between our office and across the street from our office, if we were able to lease that run, we could plug just a standard 100 base T fiber optic connector on both ends, and we have 100 megs to the other side of the street. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's just like any medium that doesn't have anything lit up on it. It's ridiculous.
I think, after we get our office and get settled a little bit, I am dying to make a little 30-minute documentary called Dark Fiber and just talk about exactly what we're talking about, but show it, talk to some of the companies, get some of the drama stories, see if we can get sit down with Comcast and be like, what the hell? It's like, hey, what the hell, guys? Come on.
That's going to be an interesting interview. So that's going to sound Comcast, seriously.
What the hell?
What the hell? And they're going to be like, no comment. It's like, wait, we just got our. Oh, they're leaving. Mm-hmm. Seriously, guys, what the hell? What are you guys?
They do have the fastest in-home Wi-Fi. Do not forget that ever. If you're
not really
a moron. Yeah, I know. I don't know. That's pretty much all I have to say about this. Do you want to say anything before I move on, Lyndall?
AT&T. The only thing that's related to this is Google Fiber is also going into Louisville, but AT&T is fighting it tooth and nail.
Oh yeah.
Well, of course, because somebody might actually figure out that they stole all of our money 20 years ago. Just saying.
God, it was 20 years ago. Holy shit. Damn. 1996 Telecommunications Act, 20 years ago. What was the date that it was signed? We should have a 20-year anniversary wake for it.
It was definitely late in the year.
Yeah.
Speaking of Google and doing really crazy things.
Okay, so this is kind of interesting right now. Humans have the ability to look at a photograph and say, like, oh, that's London. Or, oh, that's the corner shop in New York. Or, oh, that's
hey, I was standing
the
there
Grand
yesterday.
Canyon.
Yeah.
Like, we can do that. That's very difficult for a machine or a robot, but, they're working on it. So there's a guy at Google. His name is Tobias Wayard, and he's a computer vision specialist. He's working with a lot of people, and they are training computers using an elaborate system here. As you can see on the screen, this giant grid system. The grid gets a little tighter when you're in populated areas and a little smaller when you're outside of populated areas. I'm glossing over a lot of this, but essentially what they're trying to do is use the millions of photos that are taken. They've got 126 million that they're playing with right now. They have the EXIF data, which is like your location data. They're using all of that, and they're importing it, and they're training these machines to be able to look at obscure things. I'm not talking like the Eiffel Tower. That's like obvious. We're talking like more obscure things. And,
like if you were standing at the base of the Eiffel Tower and you were to take a picture of the walkway and just that's it. So where is that? Oh, right. That's at the Eiffel Tower.
Right now, right now it's not that high. It's like,
but that's the ultimate goal because that's what we can do.
Yeah, it's 3.6% of these but by the machine were able to be identified with Street View. Like right here it is. There you go. And then its 10.1% was city level accuracy. Okay, this is New York, right? And then above and beyond that, it was 28.4%, where this is in this country, and then 48% were like, okay, this is Africa, this continent or whatever. So the interesting thing about that is that doesn't sound very good right now, but this is in the infancy, and they're still working on the software. It's going to get better, but already showing the picture to a machine and showing a picture to a human, it's already beating a human, and not by a huge margin, but 28 times out of 50. So just over 50%. It's.
I wonder how well traveled these humans are. I mean, they must be.
They said that they were well traveled in the. I guess I don't know what that means.
I guess you don't even have to, because if you show somebody a picture of a lion with an African landscape, I mean, at this point we've all seen enough National Geographic to know, hey, that must be Africa.
Trick question: San Diego Zoo.
Exactly.
And the computer knew it because it recognized a piece of the fence. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
You can joke about that, but that's exactly what's going to happen. And then it's going to be a new fun tool for internet stalkers.
Oh,
I'm reminded of Ghostbusters, where it's like, guess what's on the card, and we're going to guess wrong, and he's just going to shock us regardless of whether we get it right or wrong.
You guys want to talk about robots a little bit?
I love robots.
Window robots? Drones and robots? Oh my. First off, let's talk about the Army, what they're doing with drones. Right now, they've got a new term for it. Here it is. Let's see here. It's unmanned teammates. That's it. Unmanned teammates.
Also known as murderous robots on a rampage.
No, they're unmanned teammates.
Wait, they're trying to get away from that Skynet concept. Like, no, we can't talk about that.
Yeah.
We're going to keep talking about that.
So anyway, they got these unmanned teammates, and this is kind of an interesting idea. I think someone was playing some RTS games, because they're saying, how cool would it be if we're out in the field and we need a drone for XYZ, we need a drone for reconnaissance, we need a drone to go over there and shoot that guy who's on that camel who looks like a bad guy. We're pretty sure of it because he's different color than us. Don't forget, that's how you identify the
and
bad
he's
guys.
holding a sniper rifle.
Right, Donald Trump? Yes. That's how Donald Trump identifies the bad guys. They don't look like me. I can't do a Donald Trump. I do a Bob Dole, though. Where was I? Back to this. So
unmanned teammates.
Yeah, unmanned teammates. They were like, how cool would it be if we had lots of stations where we could 3D print these? Because they're already doing some 3D printing. But we'll have lots of the regular components, like the motors and the infrared sensors, and just low-cost components, almost like stuff that you could buy on Mauser or whatever. We'll have all that there. We'll be able to 3D print all the stuff. And, the next day, we'll have 3D printed drones that we needed yesterday, so we won't have to send an actual team over there to get shot at. We'll send the drones in to do some surveillance or whatever. So, I mean, that sounds like it could be a pretty interesting use.
Stage 1 replicator. Computer, I need attack drone to go and kill sniper on tower.
Okay, printing. 4 minutes remaining. But I mean, think about this. How RTS is that? You have a base over here, and it just keeps producing units, sending them over to the other humans, and they just keep sending their unmanned teammates into battle while they sit there and control things as if they were playing an RTS. It's kind of interesting. I don't know.
It's like one of those RTS/FPS games where you've got the command guy who moves into the RTS zone, and he can tell what's going on and says, he can control the unmanned teammates, and then you have your live action folk running around on the ground actually conducting the FPS style of gameplay. Except we're not talking about games, we're talking about real life.
In a few years when they get some better technology and make some humanoid battle bots that are actually a thing, I want them to paint a whole series of them green, and whenever you talk to them, I want them to respond with zug zug. That's what we need.
The robot grunts.
Exactly. We need this.
Shortax, who you
All
want to
right,
kill?
what's next on the whole robot menu here? Worldwide spending is going to go up 135 billion by 2019. That's for robotics. Just a quick mention there.
They took our gerbs.
Exactly.
It's funny you say that, because you say they took our gerbs, but isn't it Mercedes?
Yeah, Mercedes. Let's bring that one up right here. I'll move that one over.
That's totally. There we go. Mercedes is actually aiming to replace its robots with human workers, because in the Mercedes factory, the Mercedes line of cars, we've got so many people who want so many different types of cars and whatnot. And people are going to yell at me for my crazy accent here. But
Where's that
basically,
accent from? I don't know.
I have no idea. It's amalgamation of a myriad
Up
of
across
different things.
London, it's the Chief London.
Yes. I have no idea.
Yes,
But basically, they're looking at replacing the robots with people because the customization of a car would be easier with a person than it is with a robot because a robot is build once, or tell it to do one thing many times. And
Right.
It does the same thing.
The big problem is that it takes weeks whenever they have a new task that the robot needs to do. They have to go and reprogram it. Whereas a human, they could be like, all right, yesterday you were installing screens in the front of a BMW. Because BMW and Volkswagen are also starting to do this. And they're like, guess what? Today you're going to be installing tailpipes. But if you have a robot, it's going to take a long time to be like, all right, well, the robot knows how to do this one thing over and over again. And now we have to either retool or repurpose or reprogram this robot. So it takes a little bit longer. I still think it may end up being cheaper to do it that way. But right now they're going to have just a couple people. They're still going to have robots, but now they're going to take a couple of the robots away and then have people there with the robots doing stuff.
My take on this, so I have a different take on this, and that is that this is mostly a feel-good story, and that it really doesn't amount to a lot. The robots are still going to do the bulk of the manufacturing. What is happening here is that the standardization of components has gotten to the point that basically these cars are becoming modular, and the modular components are still put together on an automated assembly line, but then assembling those final components is maybe to the point where it's easy enough for a human to deal with. And it's hard to imagine this with, an internal combustion vehicle because those are hugely complicated. But if you take a look at vehicles, electric vehicles especially, like the Tesla vehicle, and you take a look at the engine that powers the Tesla and the drivetrain and the other components, and you start to look at that from a manufacturing standpoint, you think, holy crap, we could actually get to a point where we've got motor vehicles that don't have, hundreds of thousands of components, that have only tens of thousands of components, or maybe only thousands of components. And then all of a sudden, sort of, having the robots put all the individual pieces together, and then just sort of dumping them on a human that assembles them like Lego. That's basically what's happening here with the interiors and with the seats. And, it's like, do you want this kind of an option or that kind of an option? It's really like Lego, and the robots do all the hard stuff, but then people are like, all right, let me Lego this together for this particular customer's preferences. And so it is completely arbitrary and random, but it's still not going to be a significant workforce in comparison to the robotic workforce, I think.
That's exactly what's happening.
You're right. Feel good story. You made my feelings of goodness go away. Damn robots trying to take over my gerbs. And then you got robots that look like people. Look at this thing.
So this is the latest from the Boston Dynamics robot. Remember they had the one that was a quadruped. Now it's a biped. It was part of the DARPA robotics challenge, but they've continued to work on this. This is the next generation of Atlas. There's a very interesting video here of some humans tormenting this poor robot.
The memes that have already come out on this.
You got to show the GIF. Did you show the GIF?
Which one? The one of it getting knocked over?
No. Did you send me the GIF, or did I send it to you?
I don't know. I'm watching. I've got the video playing right now of it walking around in the snow.
Did you see?
Nice.
Did you see the? Yeah, you're probably talking about the Skynet Terminator gifs.
No. It's the one where it's got the guy with the box and the hockey stick, but it's captioned.
Oh, it is. It's pushing it away.
Yeah.
Oh man! Earlier today, somebody sent me a video of this exact thing, except they had They had mapped it with that. Like the abused animal. Like send us only 10 cents a day, and we could save these poor animals, who are look at them, they're in cages and they're sad. They voiced it over, and it was like almost tear jerking, that piano music and watching this poor robot get abused by these evil humans.
All of the ones that I've seen are somehow tied into the Terminator, and watching all of this abuse stop the abuse. This is what's going to happen. She tried to warn us. It was Sarah Connor at the fence during the nuclear blast scene in the movie, and it kept cutting back. Where she's like, no, and then it cuts to them beating up the fucking robot.
So these would look cool if they were green and had machine guns, and or maybe shovels. I don't know where the
dude. It can open doors. It's already more. It's already more powerful than a raptor. It can open a door.
That's pretty damn powerful. Anyway, what I was saying here is, so we've got our quadruped, but it's still very robotic and clunky, and it can move over uneven terrain, but it does not have the finesse of a human because it's rigid. its entire body structure is rigid. It relies on motors and servos and that sort of thing, and metal parts and plastic parts. But the muscles that we have are made to go from, tense to completely. They go from dexterity to strength mode.
Yeah.
On and off.
Well, the other thing with these robots, these Boston Dynamics guys, they found that the servos and the motory type stuff were too heavy, took too much power, and were ultimately just kind of clunky. Because the original Atlas was like 6'8" or 6'5" or something like that.
This one actually only weighs 180 pounds and it's 5'9".
And they've done the whole thing, all of its movements and everything else. It's all hydraulics.
Yeah, but watch how it's all hydraulic, but it still grabs things in a funny way. Check this out.
It's still learning. It's a baby. I mean, how well did you move boxes when you were 5 weeks old?
I didn't. I paid someone to do it because
this is pretty crazy though.
All right, yeah, this is really really crazy. You guys should go down here and watch this video. But HRL Laboratories, they're
off-road just as well.
They're working on some technology to make metal go from to make metal react like our muscles. I'm not even going to be able to do this justice, but it's working with the way that the tensioning works. I can't even do it. I have to watch the video.
Have you
seen this? The
Yes.
HRL Laboratories. Essentially, they're trying to create a robot that's made out of metal that would be able to bend and flex like this one here on the screen. And they also say, imagine if they use this technology in cars and stuff. Suddenly, a car could go on almost any terrain because it would just be able to. The metal would be able to flex and then re-stiffen and then flex and then re-stiffen. It's pretty interesting. I'll let you talk about this for a second if you can maybe be more succinct than I can.
So they're sort of the holy grail. One of the holy grails of robotics is going to be linear actuators that work kind of like muscles. And so what they've got here is sort of the best of both worlds. They've got, an ordinary spring and then this tensioning mechanism thing that sort of varies the amount of stiffness that's here. If we want to build robots that are like people and interact with things like people do, so bipedal, moving, that kind of thing, but also can count for energy conservation, so that the amount, sort of the spring in your step. I mean, people are very efficient walkers. Like when you swing your hips from side to side, the study of this kind of thing is called kinematics. Well, that's another story. But the deal with this is that if we can figure this out efficiently for robotics, this kind of thing actually works really a lot better for locomotion than wheels and servos and things like that. It's also potentially a lot more power efficient. I myself have experimented with using electromagnets and tiny little bags of ferrofluid to try to create an artificial muscle. And it's like, can I use a ferrofluid and plastic bags and very carefully placed arrays of electromagnets and neodymium magnets to create sort of an artificial muscle? And the answer is, oh yeah, you totally can. Is it power efficient? Oh no, hell no. It's not. Maintaining the electromagnetic field, that kind of thing, is very bad. Other kinds of linear actuators are things like a worm gear, where you've got a long threaded rod that spins and that moves the thing forward and backward. That's pretty cool because you can vary the speed and move it very fast or very slow. The other nice thing is that basically locks it in place. And when when you want to lock your arm in place, you've got to expend energy to do it because the muscle doesn't really have a locking mechanism. The one exception for that in your anatomy, or one exception perhaps among many, is your knees. And so you can sort of lock your knees in place, and you got bone on bone. It's not really consuming a lot of energy to keep you standing upright, or it minimizes the use of energy. And so this kind of technology is very exciting because this is what we need to really have robots that will finally be like domestic helpers and things like the Boston Dynamics robots. Figuring this out and making it energy efficient is what's going to lead to a robotic revolution. And this also goes back to something we've covered in the past has been we're going to use software to make up for horrible inadequacies in hardware. And what that means is that in manufacturing right now, robots are built to very tight tolerances. They can move to fractions of a millimeter with perfect accuracy. In the future, we're gonna make very cheap, very inaccurate pieces of hardware that make up for their inaccuracies using vision systems and using rangefinders and using lasers and using whatever else. And that means that we can produce really cheap robots that don't have to be manufactured to very tight tolerances, that will still be able to perform very fine motor things and still have a lot of dexterity and stuff. So for the field of robotics, this kind of thing is always something that we should take a look at and sort of, find interesting.
That's here's a pretty interesting hardware hack. 120 gigabytes of storage in a floppy disk drive. Look how incognito that looks. That's an old machine from 1995, a 486 DX2.
Yeah. What's really cool about
The guy completely gutted it.
Yeah, he completely gutted it. What's really cool about this, like, you got the CD-ROM there, and he actually swapped out the headphone jack that was normally be in the CD-ROM, and he wired it to be a headphone jack from the computer, and it's the full front panel.
He cut a USB 3.
And he put a USB 3 port in there. The floppy drive is really the cool one, and some of the stuff that he did to the backside of this machine is ridiculous.
So on the inside of the floppy drive, he replaced some of the components. Still got all these ribbon cables wired up here, but he replaced some of the components with the components from the inside of a memory card reader. Then he plugged that into his motherboard. And then he did this to his floppy drive. So he's still inserting his floppy drive. It's still opening still sliding the metal protector over. But instead of spinning and instead of, connecting via standard floppy, I don't even know.
Yeah, the read head and whatnot.
Yeah, read head and all that
it's
stuff.
actually just connecting and making contact with the SD card reader, which is like, oh, that's kind of cool. Then, of course, he changes the icon on his desktop to make it look like a floppy drive, and it's kind of ridiculous.
Him clicking on it here. Oh, this video is not playing at all. There we go. There it is.
So anachronistic.
118 gigabytes free on your
3.5-inch floppy disk. It's like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
That's what, 150,000 floppies, give or take? That's insane.
Yeah.
I kind of want this just because, you get a box of floppies. Who's going to mess with that? And each one of them's like 128 gigabytes or whatever.
I'm wondering if you were to take that and stick it in a regular floppy drive, if the read head would damage the SD card.
Maybe? I don't know.
Well, here's a question. They have 1 terabyte SD cards now, right? Those are in prototype.
Yeah, you get a 2 terabyte as well, I believe.
Yeah.
2 terabyte. Is 2 terabytes more than all of the floppies that were ever manufactured on planet Earth?
And so now someone's I don't think so. I maybe.
Does anybody have an estimate of the number of floppy disks that were manufactured on planet Earth? And if so, all of the floppy disks that were ever manufactured in the history of mankind, what is their approximate capacity? Because I bet that we have more storage than that in our office or in a server, probably in 1 or 2 drives. Maybe a single 8 terabyte, hard drive or 10 terabyte hard drive would be more storage capacity than all of the floppy drives, all of the 1.44 meg floppy disks that have ever existed.
Speaking of hard drives, let's talk about what Google's got going on. They're experimenting with some new shapes for hard drives for data centers, because the spinning platter, that technology's been around since the dinosaurs, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
Well, it's still spinning platter. They just want to make it taller.
Yeah, just a little bit different.
I have a drive like that, except the drive I've got, it's a 9 gig SCSI drive. It is...
You should clean it up if it's all SCSI.
It's full height.
It's a full height. It's two 5 1/4 bays high, and it's a 5 1/4 bay, and it's 3 1/4, 3.5. I don't even know anymore. It's a big drive. The thing is huge.
I don't think this form factor is that new, because I want to say that Quantum and Maxtor and Micropolis and maybe even Miniscribe all had 3.5-inch discs that were really tall. IBM in their actually in the hard drive that I had in my dual Celeron 300A was a 10,000 RPM SCSI 68-pin IBM drive that was 1.6 inches tall. And so this is not a new thing.
Yeah, it doesn't.
And the reason they didn't want to make the drives bigger, like 5 1/4 inches, is because of the seek time. It would kill the seek time, because the read-write head physically having to move farther would kill I/O operations per second on a mechanical disk, and so they did not want to do that. So they just want to add more platters.
Wow. So guys, we're seeing VR everywhere. We just saw that picture that's been all over the internet right now with Mark Zuckerberg walking through a room full of people that all have on VR headgear. And now we have Skylights. It's a French company working on what you see right here on the screen. Essentially every chair on the airplane will have its own little VR thing. And you sit down and you'll be able to enjoy both immersive 3D and regular entertainment. Each one will have its own screen inside it, and you can plug your own headphones into it, or they'll provide you headphones. This may actually be the future of in-flight entertainment.
I sure as hell hope not.
Yeah, all these filthy things on your face.
No, it's not even that. It's the problem I have with air travel right now is, I think it's the problem that everybody, any frequent flyer, and I mean like the business guys who really know what's going on, and they've got it down packed. Where they're like they want to be out cold when they before they even take off, so they can just wake up when you land and you'll be done. But sitting for and we've flown back and forth to China and Taiwan, and those 14-hour flights, you're just because the plane is pressurized, you're still at 35,000 feet, and it does something. There's always there's like a push-pull on the atmosphere inside the plane, the atmosphere outside the plane, and it always feels like my head is being like stretched or
so this is going to squeeze your head even more.
And I think putting something like this on your face, with that kind of weight on the front and the back, and actually putting all that strain into your head, the big headphones, I don't know, big headphones on flights that cause like cranial migraines. It's ridiculous.
Well, that might be anecdotal just from your point of view. But I'm wondering if they're going to be doing testing as far as that goes, and just see how it works out for the general public. I don't know. I feel like we're really going in a direction where this is going to become more and more normal. And as the years go on, I guess the question I wanted to ask the audience right now is, do you guys think that people are going to start to become addicted to this sort of thing? And we mentioned this earlier in the show, but do you guys think that people are going to start living vicariously through their online personas in a VR world?
World of Warcraft. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, what's the difference between living in World of Warcraft or EverQuest? I mean, there's a reason why we started calling it EverCrack.
I called it Forever Quest, but... Yeah.
Well, that too. I mean, but all these games, all these MMOs, the only difference between that and VR is that in VR you'd be a little more immersed, I guess, but otherwise people already live vicariously through these...
what if you had your VR glasses on and they're smaller, and you could do something where you first put them on, and it is able to map out your house in 3D. So there it is, and all the stuff becomes mapped out. And that now you're living in your own house in 3D, and you can walk around the house if you like, and your significant other can have her avatar, and you guys can walk around and interact together in your own house, seeing your avatar rather than the actual person that's there. There goes your insecurity. If you're worried about
that makes it even worse, I think. Unless you could do the suspension of disbelief of who you're actually dealing with. It's like, oh, wow, honey, is that what you want to look like? I don't understand. Why are you an ape?
Hey, who knows? Somebody might be into that. So you're an ape, and I'm going to be like a Barbie doll female, of course. That's going to be my avatar. Just going to wander around the house.
People going to constantly wear them when they're,
Someone's going to Photoshop my face in a Barbie doll now. I command it. With the beard.
Wendell, save us.
Oh, Jesus. I think we've... I think when the Wendell robot has malfunctioned, we need to have to call down to Kentucky and have him rebooted.
The Wendell Bot 9000, most advanced computer system in the world.
It needs to be rebooted twice a year, and usually because of this.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
I want to know what you guys think. Is this a potential danger?
35 pun overflow detected.
Injecting anti-pun
Too
serum.
many nested puns.
Nested pun nest has exceeded 64 puns.
Floating point error.
The punishment never ends right here on the tech. All right, let's move on.
This is
the video game stuff. How about it?
It's video games. Okay, cool. I can go for this.
There's a new game coming out called Squad, and if you're into the Arma series or Battlefield games, Insurgencies, games like that, take a look at it. I think it looks pretty interesting. I'm not a huge fan of those sort of games, not because I actually really do enjoy the realism. I'm not a big open world type shooter. I like corridors, like Quake and that sort of thing. But if you're into these games, this one looks like it could be kind of interesting, so I figured it'd be worth a mention out there. As I do like realism quite a bit. If we could have this, but in like bunkers and stuff, I would be happy. And I know Call or Battlefield, they do have some games that are more, like, hey, you're on the train and stuff,
Right.
and you're running around in a indoor area. But
So if this game, or this kind of game,
Mm-hmm.
was full VR, do you think people would stay in the game for longer and longer amounts of time?
I don't know.
I mean, we're like, look at DayZ. Do you think people would do that if it was full VR and into almost lifelike setting where you'd be like, crap, the zombies really are after me? I hope you have like a battery on, you get that like the
I think it's going to be more of an augmented reality thing, like 10, 15 years down the road, where you can actually do something like put this on and actually run around town with everyone else who's playing, and you're all wearing the glasses. And it's augmented reality. You can still see everything that's really there, but there's a game that they were playing while we were in Kentucky, and you'd see people wearing like certain bandanas. I forget what the game was, but I'm sure someone in the comments will know. They're wearing a certain bandana. If you're wearing this bandana, you're a zombie. If you're wearing this bandana, you're not a zombie. And the zombies have to get you, or you can shoot the zombies with a Nerf gun, and you'll see people like a gas station whipping out Nerf guns and stuff because they'll see like a zombie there, and they're like, oh shit. So it was sort of like a real world RPG. But I wonder if this is going to translate over into and become even bigger through augmented reality and that sort of thing. There's a lot of future ideas that could happen.
So I mean, you look at games like Ingress, where that technically was an augmented reality thing, where you've got your phone was your way of accessing the augmented world, and you'd run around and you'd find a picture of an object that was that was the thing you're supposed to go interact with, and you could actually physically go over there, uses your GPS to triangulate where you are, and then you hack into nodes, and you can you set up triangulation parts, and you protect things, and it was kind of a really neat game. But imagine if this was actually done with an augmented reality glasses. I think this game would be so much more interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I stopped playing that game because it just burned my battery out on every phone I had.
Are you enlightened or resistance?
I'm not at liberty to discuss my affiliations. That's classified.
Enlightened all the way. I don't play. All right. Next up on the list here, IBM is working on a game. Not really. IBM's not working on a game. So IBM is going to be powering the Sword Art Online. No, the Sword Art is an anime. But Sword Art Online is being developed in Japan, and they are going to be using IBM's Watson technology to make it like no other game. They're assuring us that it's going to be like no other game. There's an alpha coming out very soon that they're going to let 208 testers in the Tokyo metro area play. And I am really curious to see what they're going to be doing with this. It'll work with HTC's Vive and also with Oculus Rift. But I want to know what they're going to be really doing with Watson or IBM's technology. And it's also really strange to see like, a game trailer like this that looks pretty interesting. This is let me go to the end here. To see like IBM on the bottom there and sponsored by IBM, it just feels weird to see like an anime or a game that has IBM's name on it. But I'm wondering what they're going to be doing.
I'm glad they're branching out.
Yeah. I'm going to keep my eye on this because using that, their AI could prove to be kind of interesting for the game. So, anyway, I don't know. You think you'll play this, Wendell?
I might actually play this. I'm not sure. It's going to be interesting to see how they use Watson and what he actually does.
All right, I guess I'm going to go right now and play SuperHot. It's kind of what I've been wanting to do today.
I'm going to go home and I'm going to get it because it actually looked kind of neat, and I've already bought it on my phone while we were sitting here. So,
so SuperHot, it's we've got a sale for SuperHot going on right now. SuperHot is an interesting new mechanic as far as FPS games go. Time only moves when you move, so you'll have a room full of guys. And by the way, go to our website, techsyndicate.com, and you guys can get 20% off right now on top of it already being on sale on Steam. So it brings the price down to about $18. Just go to our website and click there. And if you guys ever want some game deals, always go to techsyndicate.com/game deals, and I'll show you how that works. And there's a list of all the different game deals. We get a couple pennies, and we help you guys save some money, so it's a great way to help the site while we help you guys out. We do that kind of stuff all the time. So anyway, this one looks like a really interesting game. I like the fact that this mechanic has not really been done before, and it turns FPS into almost a strategy, but still kind of an adrenaline rush at the same time because you're dead if you get hit, so you have to start over and retry. But there's a lot of interesting things that could happen, and then of course you can save your really epic replays and play them back in full speed and watch like how much of a badass you were. So it could be kind of fun. I'm looking forward to it. And I just bought it earlier today using our coupon. Am I allowed to use our own coupons? I guess. If I'm not allowed
if you
to.
don't tell, I won't.
Okay, I didn't tell anyone. Also, I want to say thanks to all our Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. Keeping us alive, especially now that we're doing the move to this crazy office. We got a lot of demolition work to do if we end up getting this other office. That's the end. Someone else do the ending.
I'm gonna do the ending.
Wendell, you want to do the ending?
I guess that's it. Whatever. Till next time. See ya.
Something. I don't know.
Dioxide.